Live, live, live. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Whew. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Hope everybody is well and that you had an amazing day. I am just pulling the pieces together, and that you had an amazing day and that you've been practicing self-care and staying safe. Don't mind me squinting. It's my superpower. No, I'm kidding. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's my superpower. All right. Awesome, 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 awesome. Okay. All right, great. Okay, welcome to the Rebel Queens Spotlight, episode 7. Today's episode 7, which in essence means that I've done this for 7 weeks in a row, and it has been amazing. It's been fantastic. I am so honored to be able to be a part of these queens' journey and just being able to soak up the stories and yeah, it's been amazing. It's been amazing. And for those of you who've been with me every week, thank you so, 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 so much. So I'm sure you've realized I've changed my location. So now I'm not as echoey, right? Yes. So I have my signage in the back that I always, my son made this for me. So I have my signage in the back. So yeah, this is a much better space for me. There have been some movements in my home. I've had to change some things up, and yeah, this is a much better situation. So yeah, welcome to Rebel Queen Spotlight. We are here every single Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, and yeah, I stream live right here on Facebook. So if you're catching this on YouTube, or if you're catching this, a clip of this on my IG page, or if you're not and you don't even know how to contact me, or you're not connected with me on any of those platforms, on YouTube, we are The Birthing Code. On IG, we are The Birthing Code. And then I have a group called the Rebel Queens. I keep saying that, it's not that, it's Rebel Queens. So if you are looking for a space where you can learn more about taking your power back and being more informed and educated, and just really learning how to create your birth, getting in touch with your intuition, trusting yourself, this is the space for you. So hop on over, look up Rebel Queens on Facebook, answer a few of the questions. You must answer the questions. It's important that you answer the question, because if you don't answer the questions, I cannot admit you. So answer the questions, and then I will admit you into the group, and then come and learn and soak up with us. Last week, I actually did a 3-day mini series called Empowered Birthing, and it was powerful. It was amazing. And we talked about how to essentially become more empowered in your birthing process and reducing your fear, and just really learning key things that help you to take charge, key things that the medical industrial complex has pulled away from, that essentially makes birthing more difficult for birthing mothers. And so it was just basically unlocking that and giving that information and making sure that women knew. So if this is something that you would possibly be interested in participating in, yes, I did it last week, but I have left it up, and it will be up until this weekend. So if you are catching this and you're learning about this now, you definitely want to DM me either on Facebook or on IG, and just let me know that you're interested in jumping into Empowered Birthing, and I will send you the link, and you can go in there and soak it all up before I take it down. Okay. All right. So I am thrilled to pieces about our guest this week. I really am. I'm really excited because this is the first guest that I've had where we are covering this particular topic. And yeah, it's basically about a queen who just, well, let me back up. So earlier on today, I posted on my personal page. Did I introduce myself? I don't think I did I? Well, I'm Nikki Inman. I'm Nikki Inman of the Birthing Code, your Rebel Queen Spotlight host. I think I'm just all excited today. And I empower women to overcome, and I actually help them to overcome and heal their traumas, and so that they can create the birth that they absolutely desire and that they're absolutely deserving of, so that they can so that they can design and manifest a birth that they desire, and that they can maneuver if they choose to deliver in a hospital, they can maneuver the medical industrial complex safely. And that's so key, that they can do it safely for themselves, for their baby, and without trauma. So, okay, now that I've gotten all of that out the way. Okay, so I had posted on my page earlier that it was about the Black maternal mortality issue. And that's part of the reason why this queen did what she did. And she birthed at home, but she didn't just birth at home, she birthed unassisted. So I'm so excited for you to hear her story and to be empowered by her story, because there are so many ways to birth, and nobody gets to really tell you how you should birth. This is your birth, this is your body, your baby, and you should be in charge. And all things being equal, provided that you are not high risk and you don't need the medical intervention and not even intervention, the medical assistance in order to navigate your birthing experience safely. But if you're low risk and, absolutely you're having a great pregnancy and you're absolutely slated to have a great birth, there's absolutely no reason why you can't have the birth that you desire and manifest that. Okay, so I'm going to bring our queen on. Okay, let's see. She's joining. Just take a second. So she's joining. All right, and as usual, I will be looking at commentary on my phone. Yay. So she's joining. All right, and as usual, I will be looking at commentary. Okay, and I've got 3 viewers. I didn't even realize I had any viewers. Hey, all right, so I'll be looking on my phone to be able to answer questions. Teairha! Okay, I have to turn this down though, because this is where I learned that, hey, we have 4 viewers. This is where I learned that, well, that's because Teairha. I will be looking at comments. Okay, and I've got 3 viewers. I didn't even realize I had any viewers. Hey, all right, so I'll be looking on my phone to be able to answer questions. Okay, so Teairha's got something in the background too. This is where I learned that, hey, we have. Can you hear me? This is where I learned that, well, that's because Teairha. I will be looking at comments. Okay, and I've got 3 viewers. I didn't even realize I had any viewers. Hey guys, if you come in, let us know where you're chiming in from. Teairha's got always get this is where I learned that. Hey, can you hear me? This is where I learned that. Well, that's because I will be looking at comments. Yeah, this is where I learned about the lag. That hey guys, if you come in, let us know where you're chiming in from. Hey, Christopher. Always get where I learned that. Hey, can you hear me? This is where I learned that. Well, that's because yeah, this is where I learned about the lag. That hey guys, if you come in, let us know where you're chiming in from. Hey, Christopher. Why am I hearing that multiple times? Can you hear me? This is where I learned that. Well, it's not me. Yeah, this is where I learned about the lag. I'm learning that technical difficulties are part of life too. Let us know where you're trying Krista, why am I hearing that multiple times? It's not me. This is where I learned about the I'm learning that technical difficulties is a part of life. Teairha, can you hear me? Because I can't hear you. This is where I learned about the I'm learning that technical difficulties. Muted. Let me unmute me. Let me mute her. Okay. All right, guys, can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? My Facebook crowd, can you guys hear me? Give me a heart. I love hearts, by the way. I love hearts. I like thumbs up. Okay, so let's see. Let's unmute. All righty. Okay, good. Thank you for the hearts and the love. All right, Teairha, can you hear me? You can hear me. Okay, so this could be like what happened to me last week. Let me double check with my stuff and make sure that it's not on my end. Thank you guys for being patient. I promise you we're gonna get started in just a moment. But I wanna make sure, and the funny thing is you guys can probably hear her. I just can't hear her. And this happened to me last week, and it was because my volume was all the way down. Video settings, let's see. Okay. Audio. Okay, no. Microphone, speaker, no. Volume. All right, I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up. And my speaker is all the way up. So no, I'm good on my end. Can you guys hear Teairha? Teairha, can you speak and see if they can hear you? Because I only see your mouth moving. I don't hear you. If you guys hear her, can you give me some hearts so I'll know if it's on my end or if it's on hers? And we have 5 viewers. Audio, video, okay. Let's check out video.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I figured it out. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Oh, gosh. And the whole time I'm like, I can hear everybody.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say we cannot hear her. Hey, sweetie, how you doing? I'm not going to say your name until we talk because I promise you I do not like messing up people's names and I don't want to pronounce it incorrectly. So, I want to say it's LaKenya. I just don't want to mess it up. Okay, great. So now you can hear her. All right, great. Yay! Listen, I'm learning. I really am. I'm learning to take these things in my stride and be okay with it because these things used to stress me out. Like, oh yes. My gosh. Yeah. So I definitely had a thing with perfection.
Yes, I understand.
I've learned to, and I'm still learning to release that and just be like, hey, it's okay. It's going to be all right. All right.
Yes.
So welcome to Rebel Queen Spotlight. Okay, I've got one more thing I need to do. All right, to my computer. Great. So welcome to Rebel Queen Spotlight, episode 7 with our special guest, Teairha Washington. Welcome, Teairha.
Hi.
I'm so excited to have you. You know, I had a mom in my group just last week, and she is wanting to do an unassisted home birth as well.
Mhm.
And I said to her, you have to come on Wednesday. You know, I'm going to bring the expert in because I've never had an unassisted home birth. And so
Oh.
bring the expert in so that the expert can speak to, you know, this topic. So I am beyond honored and just really excited to have you here. Thank you so much for being open to sharing your story that we're going to jump into very shortly. Let me make sure that nobody, okay, I'm bringing my phone over so I can make sure that, all right. Hi, Sandy. Hi, everybody who's coming on. Please let us know where you are hailing from. So yeah, okay, I'm really excited. So let's start with, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Okay, well, my name is Teairha. I am a mother of 4 now, and I'm a homeschooling mom, and I've been doing that for about 5 years now. And I guess only until recently, only recently I've embraced my crunchiness. I thought it was just kind of I was quirky, but there's a name for my brand of
Uh-oh, did she freeze on us? She did.
a little differently than most people. So this COVID crisis is not really that much different than my regular than what I'm normally doing anyway.
Okay.
My children in terms of, you know, just being in the house and home with them.
All right, so give us a definition of crunchy, because this is the
Okay, so crunchy is what I think crunchy to be is somebody that tries to live a pretty natural way of life. There are a lot of I don't do a lot of mainstream interventions. I don't take my children to the hospital unless they're sick. Um, uh, you know, so my way of birthing and my pregnancy, I saw a midwife during my pregnancy, but I'm really hands off with a lot of things and a real laid back way of life. You know, we try to grow some food from time to time, and you know, just I pulled my kids out of the public school system. We just live a little more off grid than most people, but not completely. You know.
okay, awesome. So so staying in you know, within the topic of being crunchy, have you always been this way?
No, Russian has been just the longer I've been doing things, the more I've become entrenched in the lifestyle. So it didn't start off that way, but I think you just get used to doing things your own way, and when you're like that, you don't have as many pressures on you to follow the crowd so much. So that's the way I raise my children, and just really how I live.
Okay, all right, awesome. So you said you have 4 children. What are their ages?
My oldest is 13, and then I have an 11-year-old, a 7.5-year-old, and my youngest baby is 3 months old now. And you might see the top of her head because she's trying to stand up and trying to push off of the sofa and, and get up.
Okay. That's okay. You know, they just really seem to. I remember when, you know, having my children and they were younger, they just seem to do things like, especially when there are other siblings, they just seem to do things like way quicker. They're like, hey, you're not leaving me behind. I'm doing everything you guys are doing. So, so I get it. All right. So obviously, you know, everybody wants to hear about your unassisted birth, but the unassisted birth is not isolated from your journey. And a lot of the times, the places that we end up are due to experiences that we've had along our journey. So I think it wouldn't do, you know, your unassisted birthing story justice if we leave that part out. So I think that that's an integral part of why you even ended up in the space that you did with birthing unassisted.
Definitely.
So if you would, take us on that journey with you, like, from your first birth, because your unassisted birth was your fourth birth, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if you could take us back, and, it doesn't have to be, lengthy, just the parts that you want to share. If you could take us back to your first birth, your second birth, your third birth, and just the journey of what was the pivotal moment when you decided, okay, that's it. I'm not doing this like this anymore.
Okay. Well, my first birth was a very medicated birth. I had my son at the world famous Johns Hopkins Hospital. That wasn't initially the plan, but they thought that he would be born with some complications with his heart. So that was why my care was actually switched to that hospital when I was 38 weeks along. I don't actually have a really deep and detailed memory of my experience with having him, because I was on my birth was being augmented with drugs, and I slept through most of it. I remember waking up to them coming in and pulling all of the cords out of the wall and wheeling me to the OR in a big hurry because they'd lost his heartbeat, and they were taking me to have a C-section with him. And I just remember a real calm state of mind coming over me, and just the willingness to submit to that feeling, and feeling like, you know what, whatever's going to happen with his birth is going to happen. They wound up not having to do that and finding his heartbeat at the last minute, and I pushed him out vaginally, but I couldn't feel anything, and they wound up using like the vacuum suction. He had like a scalp monitor. It was just any medical intervention you can think of. We wound up going down that road. My second birth was actually, I went in to be induced, and when I got there, I was already in labor. And and at that point, since I had the experience with my son, I really wanted to try for a natural birth, and I did wind up having that, although I was not in control of that experience. And by that, I just mean that the nurses that were working with me really didn't want me to be very vocal. I remember at one point feeling FER, which is like the fetal ejection reflex.
Yes.
And feeling the need to get off of the bed. And for me, I felt like I needed to be on all fours. And I just knew she was coming. And I remember a nurse putting her hand in my chest and forcing me back down on the bed and telling me, like, you cannot get up, basically. And I understand that's a liability thing, but there's a reason why you have that reflex, So I wound up having her, and we had our traditional stay at the hospital, and that was what I remember about that experience. Although that labor was a lot shorter. My first was over 24 hours, and by the time I had my daughter, she came in about 4 hours. Third birth, that birthing experience was another induction. I think part of what happened with my journey was learning patience. I remember that if I could get through the pregnancy without the feeling of being tired of being pregnant and wanting the whole experience to just be over, when I was
I'm not sure if we lost her or if she just froze. Or if that's both of us. Nope, it's not both of us. We lost her. Okay, there she is.
I'm here. Can you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you froze.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even know.
Okay.
I'm just talking.
You know what? That's like when you're talking on the phone with someone and the phone gets disconnected and you just, and by the time and the phone rings and you're like, what? Oh gosh, like man, I was talking for a while.
I'm like, okay, so I don't even know where I leave off, but
So what did we get? So you realized that if you could just be patient and
yes, if I could just be patient with the process and not be tired of the pregnancy and ready to wrap things up. There's a lot of excitement that builds up anyway, especially if you have like a baby shower, and once you get everything set up, you feel like the only thing that's missing is the baby.
maybe, yes.
So, I wanted to get through the process. And as a result of that, with my third birth, I did succumb to the offerings of the same Pitocin, and that of course led to the epidural. And that birth was that's the one where I have nearly no memory of.
Wow.
Nearly no memory. I know that birth took over 24 hours, and she took longer getting here than my son did with my first birth.
Wow.
Her birth was the longest. And it just, I don't know, it just really wasn't it. All of those each incident kind of culminated to my mind really changing about what I wanted my experience to be. And not even in that moment, because I thought that at the time I was like, oh, I think I'm probably done having children. But as luck would have it, somewhere after my daughter turned 7, or maybe after she turned 6, I was thinking, I think I want to have one more.
You got baby fever.
Better to never say never.
Yes. You got baby fever.
Yes. And that's exactly what happened. So this last time, I actually experienced a miscarriage before this last pregnancy, where we had been trying, and I got pregnant pretty much right away after I had an IUD removed. And I lost that pregnancy pretty early on. But during that pregnancy, I had started to look more into home birth. Not really specifically home birth, but more so birth with a midwife, I'll put it that way. And looking in terms of, what insurance would cover and what the process was. And the more, then I lost the pregnancy. So when I got pregnant again, I went back to all of those same thoughts about having a midwife. And I realized now that a lot of that was rooted in the fear that something could happen. I actually saw a midwife all the way up through the end of my pregnancy. I even saw a midwife the day that my daughter was born at home. So, but that was more so to dispel my own fears about making sure that she was okay and that I was okay, and that we could continue on through the process. What that looked like for me was going into all of my prenatal visits, and then at the last minute, I wound up being about a week and a half overdue. And anybody that's been overdue after a while, they start trying to get you in to talk about induction and your timing and all of that, and the pressure starts.
Oh, yes.
But I had spent the whole last part of my pregnancy really trying to confirm and affirm to myself that I would do this at home, that everything would be fine, and that I would have, and I kept I had made affirmations, I had decorated my birth space, I planned to birth in a birthing pool and had ordered all of my supplies. One of the things that I did was I purchased this book, Home Birth on Your Own Terms. This is a book by a midwife about how to have an unassisted home birth. And as you can see, mine is pretty.
I see.
Because I had time to study beforehand.
Now, who is that book by?
This book is by, her name is Heather Baker, and she's a traditional midwife.
Hi, cutie.
Yes. And but yes, her book was invaluable. Covered just anything you could think of that you need to know to have a home birth, to go into it unassisted but feeling completely prepared. but feeling completely prepared nonetheless. So that was integral to my plan as far as what I wanted to do when I went into labor. One of the other things that happened, I mentioned that I did see a midwife right up through the end of my pregnancy. I had went in for NST, which is the non-stress test that they take to measure to make sure that the baby is still thriving, even though they're overdue. And my children have always been kind of on the small side anyway. I've never had a baby weigh more than 7 pounds.
Ooh, oh.
So, I felt like we'd be okay, even if she was a little overdue. But I went in for the non-stress test. And when I got there, they watched us for about an hour. And everything was fine up until maybe like the last 5 minutes where they lost her. They said she experienced a deceleration. So the heart rate went down. I believe that's what that means. So they wanted me to go to another floor on labor and delivery where they could watch us a little longer. And we did that. And that test was about 3 hours. And in that time, they saw 2 more quick decelerations after they gave me sugar. The reason why they did that was because she had fell asleep during the test and they needed her to be up and moving around during that test. But that sugar made her really hyper. And I asked during that time, because at that point they wanted to keep me. And I said, well, how do we know that she didn't just roll over on the cord? Or, how do we know that this is an emergent situation? And they told me, well, we don't, but we just have to kind of cover ourselves. Worst case scenario, you could go home and she experienced another decel and, then we'd be liable because we didn't say anything. So I said, well, if it's not a true emergency, besides I was pregnant during COVID with her. So my husband wasn't able to come to any of the appointments with me. And, he was really left out of this and we've never done.
Okay, so at least this time when she comes back, I can tell her where, because I know exactly where she cut off.
Oh, no, again.
Hey, we cut off right when you said, oh my gosh, that left my mind so quickly. You were talking about your husband, that you guys had never basically had your children apart.
Yes, okay. Yes. So we had never experienced, him not being able to come in for ultrasound visits and appointments with me. And there was no way when at the end of the pregnancy, when the hospital wants to keep me because of these decelerations, that I was willing to just, have the baby there and hope that he could get there in time and that kind of thing. Besides, my children, my older children wouldn't have been allowed to come. That would have been, its own hurdle to make sure that everybody got to their respective places before the baby could be born.
Okay, so because I feel like we're missing some. So why did you end up going into the hospital? Was this just an appointment that you had?
Yes, just a non-stress test. And because of a deceleration, they wanted to keep me at the hospital and just have me call my husband and for him to shuttle the kids to, my mom's or where they were going to be at so that they could keep me and we could have the baby. But I never wanted to have my baby there. So, and I had done all this preparation. So I felt, and I really did not feel like the deceleration that they saw was a true deceleration. And they couldn't confirm it. And they did later tell me, we could wait until your husband gets here. You don't have to have the baby right now. And I said, okay, so this is an emergency then. She's not like having in distress or anything. Oh, her heart rate rebounded immediately. We just want to err on the side of caution. So I said, oh, well, no, that's all right. Well, I'm going back home.
Yes.
And I had told them that if she doesn't come into, by 42 weeks, I'll come back and we can do everything then. Mm-hmm. Which I would have probably had to see how I felt about that too. But that was what I said. And I just remember that they really were against me leaving. Mm-hmm. I kept telling them, all right, well, let me call my husband just to get them to leave the room and give me some privacy to make a phone call. And when they did, I put my clothes back on, took the gown off, and got dressed and then let them know, no, I think I'm going to sign myself out. And they gave me forms. I did learn at that appointment that I was 6 centimeters dilated. And I had been having like some twinges of maybe some contractions, but I had had so much false labor during the end of that pregnancy, so many false alarms. Hey, honey, set the pool up and nothing happened. Oh my gosh, you know that you think everything is time, and it just never was. So by the time I signed myself out of the hospital, I had been there for about 5 hours. I had been watching TV in the room, and they kept airing this Pizza Hut commercial, and I wanted some pizza so bad, and I was ready to eat and ready to come home.
Yes.
So I called my mom on the way here, who was going to be. We had planned for my husband to be at the birth, of course, all my children, and my mom, who lives like right around the corner from me. So I called her and I said, hey, listen, I don't know if it's time because I have these little twinges, but I really want you to come with me so you can go in and go get this pizza I'm gonna get ready to order. And so I get her on the way home, and she's like, okay, well, we're gonna keep track of your twinges and see, because you really, this is baby number 4. She's probably gonna come quick. So I said, okay. So she's like, let me know every time you have one. So I do that all the way to go pick the pizza up. And we discovered that the contractions are about 3 minutes apart. But I can still talk. Everything's fine. It's like I barely feel them. I really have to kind of tune in in order to hear them. So we pull up in front of my house. And when I go to get out of the car, my kids are, this is another normal day in my life. So my husband he's home. The kids are outside playing with their friends.
You got your pizza, right?
Yes, I definitely got my pizza. So I let them know, hey, I'm home. I got the pizza. You guys can come in and get some food. And
right.
So it was such an ordinary day outside of having a baby, So when I got out of the car, that would be the first time that I felt like, oh, this might be a real contraction.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I walk into the house. And I have a split level house. So I go up about 5 steps when I first walk through my front door to get to the area where my birth pool and everything is. And when I walked in, I had called my husband and let him know. And like, hey, I'm on my way back. I got a pizza. Oh, I think my contractions might be 3 minutes apart. Can you fill up the pool?
Again.
Right. So he's like, okay, and you went and got pizza in 3 minutes? I'm like, yeah, they 3 minutes apart, but I'm hungry. So yes, I need fuel for what's maybe about to happen.
Right.
So by the time I get here, I go to the room to change my clothes, because I had a birth outfit planned. I had music that I wanted playing. I had affirmations that I had hung up. My space is pretty ready, So when I get to the room and I start to get dressed, I realize that I have to think a little bit, because, hey, all right, I'm pretty sure this is labor now. And this is all happening maybe in the span of 15 minutes from the time I walked in the door and got my clothes on. And then I walked out into my living room, where I had my dining room turned into my birthing area. And once I had gotten out here, I leaned against the back of a chair, and I told my husband, it's amazing. Let me just stop and say, it's really amazing the clarity that you get when you're in labor and you are calling the shots for yourself.
Listen, of course, because you don't have all the other voices and all the other energies. You can hear yourself clearly.
Exactly. And when you can hear yourself, I remember I was just telling everybody else what to do and what I needed. And so I knew that I did not want a bunch of, I wanted to make a memory, make a positive memory of the experience. So I remember that I was 6 centimeters dilated, and I remember that somebody had said at the hospital my bag was bulging. And I told my husband, hey, you know, I'm gonna lean over this chair in between these contractions. Okay. And I'm like, you know, I heard that the bag was bulging. Get a picture of this because I'm gonna want to see it later. And he did. And about a minute after he took the picture, my water broke. And I had standing over.
Your intuition, though, your intuition was like, I want to capture this, but I don't think this is going to be around for, let's do this now.
Yeah, exactly. So I had my outfit on, which for me was a sarong and a bralette. So I'm like, you know, let me go ahead and get this picture. And which he did. And that was awesome. And we had put a Chuck's pad down because I had all of these supplies and everything. And I got to see that my water was completely clear, which just affirmed it. You know, everything is going as it should. My water broke at 6:52 p.m. My daughter, I never got to get into the pool. I went from the chair to feeling like I need to go to the
Shame on you. You made that man set up the pool again.
I wanted that birth pool, but in labor during that time, that was really just the last place I wanted to be.
Yes.
You never know. You practice and you think about all these things and that all of this stuff is going to be so important, and it just wasn't. You know.
Yeah.
So water broke at 6:52, and then what I wanted at that point was to go to the bathroom, you know, and by then my mother's like, that's not you wanting to go to the bathroom, but I knew that I needed to open my hips in order for me to get the baby into the best position. And I'm like, listen, this is my baby. I'm not getting ready to have her, you know, I'm not getting ready to put her in danger. I know what I need to do. So I spent a little bit of time in the bathroom, but when I finished, I walked back and my mom had offered like, hey, do you want to get in the pool? And I was like, yeah, but I took maybe 2 more steps and then I said, nope, she's coming right now. And she was born at 6:59.
Wow.
I had a 7-minute labor. And to be quite honest with you, I remember having to kind of go, and kind of like think through the contractions when I changed my clothes. And maybe just right after my water broke. But outside of that, I didn't have a lot of pain at all with my childbirth. Nothing was unbearable. You know, nothing got to the point. And even then I had a conversation with my son, my 13-year-old. And he had asked me early on, you know, he had a few fears about what a home birth would look like and how safe we were being and that sort of thing. And I told him, you know, women have been doing this since the beginning of time. If there's ever any, if I feel like something is wrong, I know how to make some phone calls. I'm literally like maybe 6 minutes away from my nearest hospital. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I will, but for right now, you know, I want you to be a part of this memory. And you can expect to see some blood. You can expect that I might growl or be loud, or I might yell, but that's part of the process. And that has been part of my experience. I've never, in my only natural birth, I'm a yeller. I make a lot of noise. But with this birth, it was completely different. I had one of my affirmations that I remember saying throughout the pregnancy is that my labor will be easy, painless, and quick. Easy, painless, and quick. And I don't know, like, you know, I'm one of those people that believe that where the mind goes, the body follows.
Yes.
I've been training myself and pulling in the energy of my ancestors and calling on the names of the women who've done this and gone before. Yes. Throughout this process, there were people that wanted to be here or be part of the birth, but could not be. And I felt like they might have been a little fearful. And for that reason, I made it really easy for them to not have to be here.
Yeah.
And I remember I printed out, I had even created an affirmation for my door, my front door, so that when I was in labor, if they came, to leave any negative energy, any fearful energy, on outside. I want you to take a deep breath before you come into my space. And you know, because I spent the majority of the pregnancy blocking out any negativity that might make me second guess myself. And that's the one thing that I can say is the most important. It takes a while to get to a point where you can make up your mind and be completely fearless about what's getting ready to happen. But once you get to that point, you can control and direct everybody else in the space. You can only control your energy. So, you just make sure that nobody around you is fearful. And that's why I had the conversation with my son. And even in between contractions with getting the baby out, I pushed and I felt her head. And I asked my husband, who was behind me, and my mother, who was in front of me, do you see the cord? And my husband said, no cord. And I said, cool, we got a green light. And I waited for the next contraction. And my son was standing right next to my mom, and he was just, eyes wide and in shock. And I said, get a camera. I want you to get a picture of this. And he looked like he couldn't move for a second. I said, get the camera. I don't want you to miss this, So he gets the phone, and I said, okay, now come on now. Then the next contraction came, and when I pushed my daughter out, everybody in my family got locks, and my mother has long locks too. And the baby was holding on, had a grip of her locks, when she put it to my chest, so, and my son got the picture, and my husband helped to guide her out. And it was just, a full family affair. Now, my older children were outside in the driveway with their friends, but my son, who had been afraid, got to see what it looks like. And, it was just a beautiful day and an ordinary day at the same time.
While you were talking, I took down some I wanted to speak. The first thing that you said that I wanted to speak to was it was an ordinary day. And birthing ought to be so normalized that it is an ordinary day. That when unfortunately, the medical industrial complex has made it so like this. I mean, not to say it's not an event, because obviously it's an event, but I remember when, and I shared this, I think I shared this on one of the interviews I did. When I got into the groove of connecting with myself and connecting with my waves and understanding they were me, that they were not separate from me, that the constant people in, people out, the lights, the noises, the overhead, it created like this whole tension for me. It created this even driving to the hospital, it was just so, what can happen? What happens when I get to the hospital? How long before I get back to the room? Just all of that, versus just being home and it just being a regular day that we are about to welcome a new member to our family. I love that your birth was family centered, and the fact that your son got to witness the birth of his baby sister in a very powerful way, and to also see his mother in a very powerful way. It also stuck out to me that how old was he at the time? He was 13?
Okay. Yes, he's 13.
Even at the age of 13, that the programming is so strong that even he was, mom, is this safe? Like, what, that's learned. Where did he, it's like, wow, that he was 13. And at 13, he thinks that birthing at home is not safe. The place where he lives, the place where he eats, the place where he sleeps, that in his mind, for you to give birth to, the baby was not safe. And that really means that they do a really good job on us. They do a really, really, really good job on us. So yeah, those were a couple of things. I wrote it down. I was like, wow. And then I think the key thing that you mentioned, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm all over the place. I got complete goosebumps when you were talking. And I had to just kind of, okay, back up and just let her keep talking. I think the key thing was, yes, we plan. Yes, we write the story that we want. But the key is, which is what you pulled out so beautifully, was ultimately you allowed your intuition to lead. You allowed, you just allowed energy, ancestors to just kind of take over and trusted that process. You didn't get caught up or stuck in the, no, this is supposed to be, a water birth, or I'm supposed to be in the pool, or it was that you trusted yourself to just know. I mean, even with that, is the cord there? No? Okay, so we're good. Just complete. And the thing that came up for me when you said, just the transition that you made, I was like, yeah, the goddess showed up. That's what happened. Oh, you know what? You're muted. That's why I'm not hearing you. You're on mute. There you go.
I was gonna say, yeah, baby is fussy.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Oh, pumpkin.
Yeah. Okay.
Is she tired?
Yeah. But
okay, so let you know, I know.
Yes, it really, I couldn't have asked for my experience to be any better, and I think that it was a cathartic and healing experience from the past traumas, especially from my very first birth, when they told me that my son was going to have this heart defect that he didn't have, and made me change everything. It's one thing to be looked at as crazy when you signing yourself out 6 centimeters dilated from the hospital with a bulging bag of water, and just, and everybody's, they actually told me, there's no reason for you to remain pregnant. And I was like, well, if she's not here yet, that's the reason. She's not ready. So it's just the idea that all of this needs to be so controlled.
I heard a story today about a birthing educator who she'd gone to the hospital, and she was working and she was pregnant. And a doctor who was an intern, so he was a resident. He was doing his residency, and he said to her, "So are you going to have your baby here?" And she was like, "No, I'm actually going to have a home birth." And he looked at her and he said to her, "Well, so how are you going to go into labor?" And she said to him, "Well, what do you mean? I'm going to go into labor naturally." And he was like, "Well, what do you mean naturally?"
Mm-hmm.
Like every birth he had seen had been induced or augmented.
Yes.
That he was complete. I mean, and think about this. This was the beginning of his career. And that was the mindset that he was in, was that labor did not happen naturally on its own, that it was something that needed help. It was something that needed to be brought on. That's crazy.
It is. And the level of fear mongering that goes with trying to guiding women to the hospital to have their babies is also, when, if you have issues and you got a medical history, that's the place to be. But if you are not having an issue, if I'm 6 centimeters dilated, my body is doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Needing help.
A week and a half overdue. There's no reason. But I was told that I could go home and that my baby could die, in no uncertain terms. Those were the words that what they didn't want me to sign the paper, And I was like, there were things that clicked to me that was said, you actually don't have the authority on this one to determine. I'm already connected. I already know how this is going to go. And it's not going to happen here. Especially, that's the last place you want to be if that's what you're being told.
Not only that, and during a pandemic, because you were, during the height of COVID,
Exactly.
Like, oh my goodness. So what was that like?
That was it was very isolating. This was, again, my husband wasn't able to come to any of the appointments or anything with me. And I labor and delivery, and even my midwife appointments were very empty. You know, these places, when I would go to these appointments, they were spacing the appointments out so that it might only be one other person in the waiting room with me. So, you know, it was a very lonely prenatal, I guess, chunk of time. Because usually, you know, if when you go to these places and you are pregnant and you see other pregnant women, you guys are talking and you're sharing notes about how far along everybody is. And you can guess when you'll see the next person. Oh, she had her baby. So you know, you're gonna see, you know, it's a communal feeling that comes along with it. But this was completely different. It was a completely different animal. Um, there was a heightened sense of worry, you know, um, and just the masks in general are uncomfortable, but walking around with a mask on at the end of a pregnancy in the summer is really uncomfortable.
Oh, that was brutal.
Yeah, so it just, you know, it's definitely an experience that I'll be able to relay back back to my baby as she gets older to explain to her what that was like. But um I'm just so happy that everything went the way it did and that I stuck with my choice.
Yes.
I stuck with my choice and everything worked out fine. And I got a beautiful experience and I got a chance to heal from the negative ones.
Awesome. So, if you could give a piece of advice to any mom
Mhm.
who is toying with the idea of doing an unassisted birth, what would you advise? What would you advise about prenatal care? What would you advise about just making that decision?
Okay. What I will tell any mom considering an unassisted home birth is that if there is anything in you at all that is fearful, what kills fear is knowledge.
Mm. Okay, she froze again. She said, "What kills fear is knowledge." So I'll be able to tell her this time. What kills fear is knowledge. Okay.
Kills fear is knowledge. So if there's anything in you that is wondering, what would I need to do if something happened? You know, whatever those if whatever those thoughts, whatever it is that you're truly afraid of, find out what you would do in that situation. I have a ton of things that I never used. I have from the birth pool that I never used. The liner. I got my poor husband, but yeah. So, but I got a baby pool for when my child is old enough to use it in the summertime. So I got that. I bought a neonatal resuscitation kit that I never use. I have tons of supplies and Chuck's pads and fingerprint. The you can do anything from home. I could get I had an Eldon birth type blood typing kit.
Oh wow.
You can there's so much information out there. There was get on YouTube and inform yourself. There are, you can watch people do the neonatal resuscitation and how they do chest compressions on a newborn. And 9 times out of 10, you won't need to.
Right. Or
But
you can take the class because there is a class that you can actually take.
absolutely,
Certified, right?
I said YouTube because it's free and most places are doing virtual learning right now anyway.
Right, right.
Those things are always useful to know, and it's useful to have that kind of stuff around the house anyway
Mhm.
with a baby, even after they're born. I did go back to the hospital after I had my daughter, and the reason I did that is because in my state, if you take your baby back to the hospital within 24 hours of having them, they do all of the birth certificate work, the social security card work. These are all things that you think of And if you don't know how to navigate what your options are, you might think you might miss a step, but you have time, plan it out and think about it. So I went in and they were able to kind of give me a once over, check the baby out. And by then the hard part was over. So there was no fear about, her getting me getting any Pitocin or her getting anything that I didn't want her to have. She never left our room. She never left my sight. So we stayed at the hospital for about 24 hours afterwards. And I went in, I had the baby at 6:59 and I got to sleep in my own bed. So I finished my pizza. I got to put my kids in bed that night. Wow. I was in the bed and, and nurse, and I didn't have anybody interrupting me and needing to do, a bunch of aftercare. I pressed on my own stomach a little bit, but I didn't even need to really do that once I delivered the placenta. So, which, we planted that outside, I got to just anything that I could have possibly wanted to do. I got to go ahead and do it my way. And that was awesome. But definitely get some education about anything you're fearful about. Watch other people that have done it. And do not bombard yourself with anybody's negative stories. You're going to have to find a way to block out and put your blinders on and block out all negativity and opposition to your plan. And the more you study and the more you get solid on what you want to do, the less any outside voices will matter. The old me might have been really scared into having my baby at the hospital when they told me about a deceleration, but I had already walked that walk and I said, no, that's not my plan today. I'm not doing that. I'm not having a baby here at the hospital today. So once you get solid, you'll know what to do and your intuition kicks in. One of the things that I had did was this book has a bunch of tinctures and things that you can take that help you before the pregnancy, during the pregnancy, after the birth, to deliver the placenta afterwards, to help mitigate anything like excessive bleeding or anything that you could possibly be concerned about. And one of the things that was so ironic was putting the baby to the breast to deliver the placenta. And I did not do that initially. I was doing my my skin to skin with her. So, but I wasn't nursing her, and I was thinking okay, when is the placenta gonna come out? And it wasn't until I put her to my breast, then I could feel my uterus still contracting. And after that, my placenta came right out, and I was just like, I should have did that from the beginning. It's just more innate wisdom that comes when you get out of your own way, So.
When you're in a space where you can connect that way, yes. To hear. So what advice would you give them about prenatal care?
Well, it would depend on the woman. If you want to be followed by a midwife, you can be followed by anybody, that a midwife or a doctor, and just go all the way up through your pregnancy if that's what you desire in terms of your care, and feeling like if that's going to give you the confidence you need to go into it on your own when it's time, then do that. But there's also resources. You can buy your own urinalysis strips that have the color blocks on the bottle that tell you exactly what your proteins are, whether you got ketones in your urine, whether you got glucose in your urine. And then you can take that to a provider if you need to, if your numbers are out of whack. Those are things that, I would have my urine checked every time I went to the doctor, but that was something I could have done on my own. You could find out the baby's blood type and if you know your blood type, whether or not you need the shot towards the end of pregnancy or right before the delivery. So there's a lot of ways that you can find out what you need for yourself. You can do your own weight. There really isn't much that happens at all of these doctor's appointments that you can't duplicate yourself.
Right, because you can also get the fetal heart monitor as well.
Exactly. I have a Doppler that, so now I have a box of supplies that I'll probably knock on wood, but never use again. There. because they made me feel all of these things built my confidence to get to a place where I feel like I can do it on my own. Plus,
So, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, plus that did, allow my husband to be able to hear the baby's heartbeat at a time where he couldn't do that with me at these other appointments. So,
one last question for you. So, the woman that gave birth to your previous 3 children,
mm-hmm.
and the woman that gave birth to baby number 4, how is she different than the woman that you were?
She is a lot less fearful, mm-hmm. not easily swayed, and more willing to question things that are told. One of the phrases that comes to mind is the truth does not fear investigation.
Oof.
So if there's something that somebody tells me that I know that I don't know to be true, then I need to look into that. Mm-hmm. So even towards the comparing all of those other pregnancies and feeling like my timing with those pregnancies was different and that I needed to be induced, or and feeling like I don't need to be afraid of the timetable. This baby is going to come in its own time. The only thing I need to do is, as the mother and as the host vessel for her, is to be considerate of her timetable and be patient enough to wait. So,
wow, that's really powerful. That really is, because if you think about the pregnancy process, the journey, if you're not hearing mom say, I'm tired of being pregnant, I'm just done with this, I'm over this. And I'm guilty of doing the same thing with some of my pregnancies. In fact, I used herbs to bring one of my pregnancies along, because my husband was actually leaving town and I wanted him to be there when I gave birth to my son. But listen, even with the herbs, nothing happened, because it wasn't time. It just wasn't time. And so if you're not, if it's not us as mothers trying to rush the process, then it's doctors trying to rush the process, Mm-hmm. And in that whole process, and in that whole space, nobody is considering that there is a real life human being who is a part of this process, who also, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, knows when it's time.
Yes.
That baby knows when it's time. When it's time, that baby lets you know, hey, it's time. We're doing this. Because people don't realize there are hormones that are actually released from baby that bring on labor. It's not just, the baby's not just this thing that just sits inside of you and does nothing. We go and we see the ultrasound. You see baby smiling and moving and, doing all of that. They are a conscious individual inside of you, and they're operating in their consciousness. But we become so disconnected. So I am grateful for women like yourself, who are maverick in nature and rebel queen in nature, and just kind of they take their power back by the reins, and just like, yeah, I'm taking this back. I'm taking my power back. So that's it'll be interesting for me to see if any of that, because there was an energy happening in your house that day. There was an energy happening with you. There was an energy and a connection between you and baby. I'm gonna stay in touch with you, because I'm really curious to see if your daughter is more confident than your other children. I'd be curious to see that. Did I lose you? You're frozen? She's frozen again. Let's see. I'll wait till she comes back. Oh, we lost her. But yes, that was amazing. That was absolutely amazing. I got chills. So thank you so much to all of you who showed up today to our Rebel Queen Spotlight. As I said to you, we are here every Wednesday even through the holidays. We will be here next week, Wednesday. We will be here the Wednesday after that, even though those are when my holidays happen during Kwanzaa. I will be here on Wednesday interviewing another queen as she shares her birthing story. You know, people ask me, you know, Nikki, why do you do this? I do this because I think it's really important. There is something to be said for when there are things that you want to do and you may not feel like you have the courage to do it, but you see someone else doing it. It's kind of like Kamala Harris, and I think I'm going to end up saying this every week. Regardless of whether people think she's full black, she's not full black, regardless, the woman, first of all, she's a woman. Second of all, she is mixed and she does have black in her. And there is something to be said to look at the White House and being able to say, there is somebody who looks like me. There is somebody who shares my gender. And to see something like that happen gives us all hope. It gives us all hope in one way or another. So I do the Rebel Queen Spotlights to give queens, to give mothers hope that you have choices, you have options, and that if the thing that you want to do, somebody more than likely before you has done it, and being able to pull and glean from them and see and hear their story is powerful. It's really powerful. So I will continue to do the Rebel Queen Spotlight in the hope of encouraging and allowing also these mothers the ability to share their stories and to change the narrative, to change the birthing narrative, one birth at a time. So thank you so much for tuning in. We are absolutely, I've gotten so used to saying I am absolutely looking forward to next week, Wednesday's Rebel Queen Spotlight. I do have another unassisted birthing story coming up. Because that's part of it. You know, you can birth in a hospital if you need to, if that's your choice. You can birth at home if you want to, that's your choice. You can birth in a birthing center if you want to, that's your choice. And you can birth unassisted if you want to also, because that is your choice. And it's your birthright to make these choices for yourself, for your baby, and what feels right to you. So I am really excited to see everybody next week. Thank you again for spending time with us, and take care. We will see you again soon.